After you've created your controlling idea, the next thing to start thinking about is who your audience is. So, for many of us, let's just say if you are a startup founder, you will have multiple different audiences that you are trying to communicate your controlling idea to. For example, you could have potential investors to pitch to, a potential first employee, and your first customers. All of these different people will want to hear a different story, will need to hear a different story. But the same controlling idea needs to be communicated. So, from your controlling idea, you can build off multiple different stories depending on who the audience is. But to make sure that you get that right, you really need to understand who the audience is. The stories that you create need to respect the audience. No story can work without understanding the reactions and anticipations of that audience. So you must shape your story in a way that both expresses your controlling idea and satisfies the audience desires, their wants, their needs. The audience then becomes a force to determine the design of your story. So you really need to start thinking about, okay, well, who are they? What do they want? What do they need? Whenever I'm going about preparing a story, I think of four key questions. Firstly, what are they like? What do they want? What do they need? Now, you can actually split out needs and wants into two different areas. Sometimes, if you're doing a sales pitch, the thing that your potential customer may want could be very different from what they need. For example, I worked in sales for quite some time on the business to business side of things. I would talk to clients that would say, I want a high return on investment on my ad spend. And when I would question them, asking them, well, why is it that you want a high return on investment? They would say things like, well, because I want customers and I want profitable customers. And what I found there was that there was a disconnect between what they want and what they needed. A high ROI doesn't mean that they're going to have an increasing amount of profitable customers, because customers can still be profitable without maintaining the same ROI. It's like saying, hey, which would you prefer if I had 10 if I could give you a customer that was worth $100 and I could get him for $10, that's a 10 to 1 ROI. But if I had a customer that was worth $200, but it cost me $50 to get them, then that's a 4 to 1 ROI. But the 4 to 1 ROI is a higher profitability. So when I was able to tell that story to that person, I moved them from them wanting an ROI to them wanting profitable customers. So it's important to kind of split those up sometimes. The third question is, what is important to them? You saw there in my previous example where I asked them why, why, why. By constantly asking them why, you may be able to determine what is truly important to them. The final thing is, how can you help them? Once you determine what's important to them, how does your product, your service, whatever you're offering, help them? If you haven't met the person before actually telling them the story, there's a couple of things that you can do here. The first thing is, if you have time when you meet them face to face or over Zoom or over any other video conferencing service, then the thing to do there is spend time just asking questions. It doesn't need to be explicit as like, what's important to you or what are you like? But you can ask some questions, get to know them as people, get to know what is interesting to them, what their values are, and then be able to kind of build the story from there. Another thing that I like to do, and I fully endorse this, is do LinkedIn stalking or Google somebody before I meet them. Sometimes you'll come across that they've posted certain topics on LinkedIn that are particularly interesting to them. Sometimes that you'll find that they may be on a board of a charity that you never even realized about. You'll see some of the things that they are doing in their lives and in their work that show what their values are, that show what they're interested in, that show what's important to them. And it gives you an indication of what they may need. So from that, once you understand what they need, what's important to them, and how you can help them, then it becomes so much easier to start building a story that really touches on those three items.